Right. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Moonmen. It's good to be making videos again. I haven't really had a reason to, but now I'm very excited to say that we will be beginning again with later on this year. There will be a One Piece trading card game coming out if you don't already know. And I'm a huge One Piece fan. I'm very excited about it. I've been following all the info since it was first announced. However, today was really big. Today is the 31st of May as of the recording of this video. This morning there was a live stream, and in that live stream, every single card in two of the starter decks were revealed to the world. We already knew some of them. Those starter decks were the Kaido and the Luffy ones. So what I did, me and a friend of mine this morning, we printed out English versions of all the cards, some of which were made by people much better with computers than I, some of which, and you might be able to tell when we're going through them, were made by me. But they have everything we need to discuss, and I played at least 15 games today of Kaido versus Luffy, and only Kaido versus Luffy. That is important. I wanted to go over my findings, and the way I'm going to do that is by ranking and discussing each card in the deck 1 out of 5. Um, or excuse me, out of 5. With 1 being the lowest you can score and 5 being the best. We'll talk about why each card got its ratings, what its effects mean, how they work, if they're good in this deck, if they have potential, all sorts of good stuff. I've got a little presentation here I'm very excited to dive into. At the end, we'll tally up which of the two decks got more points out of the total possible points for each card, and we'll see what that means. So let's go ahead and get started. So, right off the rip, with some great stuff. This is a picture of all the Luffy cards. You can see that there are 7 cards in total. This will be the same in both of the starter decks. Oh, let me move myself out of the way here so you guys can actually see more stuff here. There we go. There will be 7 cards in total out of the starter decks. If you can see that there will only be 2 copies of in them. And here we can see that to be Brook, Luffy, Zoro, and then the 3 event cards and the stage. I think they're called stages in this game, in the stage. In both of the decks, it'll be 3 character cards, 3 event cards, and 3 stage cards. But I think we should just dive right in, get started, and we're going to start with the Luffy leader. So, Luffy leader, what he does. Once per turn, grant one of your rested Dawn cards to one of your characters or this leader. I may do another video explaining the rules. At this point, it's a lot of people have done it, but I don't mind doing it as well. But if you don't know the rules, I have to say you're not going to get a lot out of this video, so check them out and then get back to me. But yeah, I'm going to proceed, assuming that you have at least read the basic rule sheet that has been spoiled for us. So, grant one of your rested Dawn cards to your characters or this leader. Activate main once per turn. You are doing this every turn easily. I'm going to go ahead and show this now. It's 5 stars. After turn, literally after turn 1, after the only turn that you cannot attack, you're at the very least throwing Dawn onto your leader to puff him up so that he's bigger. Luffy is kind of a tempo aggro deck that doesn't want to do nothing but swing out. It wants to hold back some, and it wants to protect its biddies, in my experience, is the best way for it to win. But this effect, having it on your leader once per turn, this effect is so strong. And it really is what enables the deck to work. Without this on your leader, the deck would not function anywhere near as well as it does. And we'll talk about that as we progress. But easy 5 stars. Usopp. So this is fun. So 2-drop 2,000. It's got 1,000 counter potential. Dawn times 2, now that means you need to have 2 Dawn attached to him to activate this effect, bringing us right back to that Luffy leader. When attacking, your opponent can activate blocker of 5,000 or lower power characters during this battle. Gosh, if you have 2 Dawn on him, and that means he's already 4,000, all you need to do is pump him up to 5,000 once, and he can swing. And your opponent cannot block it with the average blocker. They need something stronger. Easy way to close out games. The moment this card is on board, your opponent needs to be playing around it. If your one card is putting so much pressure on your opponent, they need to be playing around it like intensely. It's pretty solid. Trigger, you can play this card too. That means if this card is taken out of your life, you can just put it right into play. And that is really, really strong. I gave this card a 4 stars. I think what's holding this card back is it takes a lot of setup. Like, you need to put a lot of resources into this card, and it does not have rush. So your opponent, unless it gets hit off of your trigger, always is aware of it. They're always ready to play around it. Now, still an amazing card easily, but it's by no means the strongest card in the deck. I don't think it warrants 5. I'm very comfortable putting it at 4 stars. Karoo. This is a 1-drop 3K vanilla. It has no effect. It is not even a Straw Hat Pirate, technically. The Japanese at the bottom there says Animal and Alabaster Kingdom. It does have 1K combo power. I gave it 3 stars. Truth, this card would be worse if it weren't in the aggro deck. But if you're going first and you play this on turn 1, it's not even your best turn 1 play. Not by a lot. But it is immediate pressure. It is not hard to pump to big enough to be a threat. One of the worst cards in the Luffy deck, in my opinion. But in this deck in particular, it is at least usable. Sanji. Oh, this card is awesome. Costs 2, it's only got 4K, but if you have 2 Dawn attached to it, gains Rush. That means it can attack the turn it comes into play. And in an aggro deck, that's an easy 5. Frankly, in any deck, that's an easy 5. This card is a 2-drop 4K that has the potential to be a 4-drop Rush, but also with your Luffy leader, it's a 3-drop Rush because you can attach one of your rested Dawn to him and one of your active. And then he's a 6K, can attack the turn he comes into play. Your opponent won't be ready for him. He's the kind of thing you want to sit on until the time is right. Not even necessarily you're going to win, but if you blow him too early, your opponent will be much better prepared. He's a really strong card. One of the best cards in the deck. I'm very surprised that the starter deck comes with 4 of him instead of 2. I feel as though he warranted being a 2 of. But hey, all the better. Let's get more Sanjis out here. This card is amazing. Jinbei. 3 cost, 5,000 power. Dawn times 1, so if you have a Dawn attached to it. When attacking, for this turn, give plus 1,000 power to up to one of your leaders or characters other than this one. This card I went into the game with low expectations, but frankly, this is an easy 5-star. It turns your Karoos into actual lethal damage, like it pumps your cards to the point where they can be dealing damage. And that's what's really big. Turning your minuscule cards. It makes your Usopp only require the 2 Dawn for its effect to be triggering its damage. This card is just a huge tempo play. If you play this on curve and you can keep it alive for a turn or 2, if you can keep it alive for 2, it just puts so much stats onto your board, and the stats are really big with this deck. It also itself is lethal on swing, and it becomes a 6K with the Dawn attached. It's not that easy to swing back into. Yes, leaders can, but you need a bigger body on board too. Like you need a 5K or up. It's not that it's just an all-around well-rounded card. Easy deserves 5 stars. Chopper, 1-drop 1K blocker, and that is all. 5 stars instantly. This card is amazing. It might be the best 1-drop in the deck. Blocker is such a valid keyword. I use this card to defend my biddies all the time, and it's an extra body on board. I've won with it twice today, so I can't really complain. 1-drop blocker, who cares what its stats are? 1-drop blocker, easy 5 stars. Amazing card. Nami. 1-drop 1K, activate main once per turn, equip one of your rested Dawn to your leader, one of your character cards. 5 stars. You can have this and your leader on board. You can have multiple of this and your leader on board. This card, you're never attacking with it, so they need to remove it if they want to get rid of it, which, oof, it happens, but it's steep. It's also got combo potential, or excuse me, counter potential if you need it, but the ability to have your leader's effect on board multiple times in a turn because of this Nami is game winning. If you're going first and this is your turn 1 play, the rest of the game is a threat. You're such a big threat, and you can have multiple of it on the board at once. I gotta say, I'm so happy with this Nami, and it was one of the best cards of the day. It was the kind of card that when you play it, your opponent is immediately forced. It's kind of like the Usopp, only better. The moment you play it, the game has changed. You're just the way both players are playing the game is shifted in your favor for the rest of the game, basically. And she is a body. It is an attacker if you need an attacker. It does happen. It's very uncommon, but hey, amazing card, easily. One of the best cards in the deck. Robin. Robin is a 3-drop 5K vanilla with a 1K counter potential. And I'm very sorry to do this. Robin is one of my favorite characters in all of One Piece, but God, that's a 2-star card. We already saw Jinbei, which was a 3-drop 5K with one of the best effects in the deck, honestly. Like top 5 cards of the deck. 3-drop 5K, nothing. There's also another 3-drop 5K you'll see later in the deck. She's below curve. She just doesn't do anything. Now, if you play her, she is a threat. She deals lethal. Like, don't be avoiding playing this card if you're playing pure starter decks. But if we were to compare her to the rest of the cards we've seen, she does nothing. There's nothing special about her. Oh, wow. I did a great job making this card. It's playable, though. It works, right? It's Vivi. Vivi is Alabasta Kingdom. No Straw Hat Pirates. 2-drop 4K vanilla. 2 stars. If you're going second and this is your turn 1 play, it's not bad. But we've seen Sanji, which is a 2-drop 4K that can give itself Rush the turn it comes into play. It's got Robin Syndrome. We've already seen cards on the same mana cost with the same power that do things. And it's not a Straw Hat, and it does lose some synergies there. Now, it's still not terrible in terms of purely starter deck cards, because it's still a threat when you're playing it on turn 2. Or it's a threat at any point, because you throw 1 Dawn onto it, and then it can swing at your opponent's leader. It certainly does things. Just way worse things than the rest of the stuff in the deck. Frankie, 4-drop 6K vanilla. I gave it 4 stars. This card is actually on curve. 4-drop 6K it makes sense that a vanilla would be better than its non-vanilla counterparts. Now, I'm trying to remember if we have another 4-drop in the Straw Hat deck. I don't think so, but we do have one in the Kaido deck. It is 5K. Truth, maybe this card deserves 3 stars instead, but 6K is really big, and playing this card is a pretty solid tempo swing, and it has combo potential. Dragon Ball player. It has counter potential. In terms of what we've seen from the starter deck cards, it's better than a lot of other things. So, I give it 4 stars. Brook. 2-drop 3K, counter plus 2,000. On play, grant up to 2 of your rested Dawn to one of your characters or leader. I think this card has a lot more potential than the starter deck gives it. But if we're talking pure starter decks and only playing Luffy versus Kaido, because we never did Luffy versus Luffy, so that could change things, but I only gave it 3 stars. This card felt bad to play a lot. I wanted to save it for the counter plus 2,000. Plus 2,000 is a really big deal in terms of counter potential. But it's by no means a bad card. 3K is just very small to be committing 2 energy to with an effect that your leader and Nami already does and is not really needed. The argument is that it could be played for free, but it looks better on paper than it is in practice, is what I'll say. And I think it has a lot of potential with other red cards that we don't know about yet. There are combos here that could occur. But if we're talking strictly out of the starter deck, it doesn't deserve more than 3 stars, in my opinion. Luffy, 5-drop, 6K, Rush. So let's ignore the fact that it has a second effect. 5-drop, 6K, Rush. It can attack the turn you play it. It's a 6K. For 5, that's amazing. Also, if it has 2 energy attached to it, 2 Dawn attached to it, your opponent can't activate blocker no matter how big the blocker is for this battle. That's an immediate 5 stars. This card will just win you games. The people need to be ready to see this card at any point in the game. And frankly, even without the second effect, 5-drop Rush 6K, I probably would have given 5 stars. The second effect, it really does the main character justice here. And I think it'll be very good even after we see the stuff that's coming out. Zoro. 3-drop 5K, attach 1 Dawn. It gets plus 1,000 power. I gave this 4 stars. So this is very similar to Jinbei, where it's a 3-drop 5K that when it's a Dawn, you're getting an extra 1,000. The reason I gave this 4 stars is because Jinbei will give it to anything. Zoro will only give it to himself. Now, becoming a 3-drop 7K for 1 Dawn extra, especially when that 1 Dawn can be one that is tapped because of your leader, is still really good. But it's literally just budget Jinbei, and I'm kind of sad they did my man Zoro dirty like that. The argument would be that Jinbei requires setup. You need something else to make Jinbei worthwhile, but literal worst case scenario, Jinbei can buff your leader. So it's still the same number of stats to be seen. And so my poor boy Zoro only gets his 4 stars. Guard point. Give up to one of your leader or characters for this battle plus 3,000. This is a counter, so you're using it in the attack. Trigger, if it gets hit in your life, one of your leader or characters for this turn gets power plus 3,000. Now, the fact that that lasts for the whole turn is insane. However, I only give it 4 stars. Pardon me. I think this is going to be a staple in red decks for a while. I think it's a very good card. I think it has the potential to be 5 stars. Out of the starter deck, it is only 4 stars. It is clunky. The deck wants to be attacking, not defending. High quality red card. Only worthy of 4 stars in terms of this starter deck. It ends up clunking your hand a lot. However, worth pointing out, use it. Protect your Jinbeis. Protect your Zoros. Think of it less to save your life, although you can, certainly. It saves your life. But using it to save your character cards, it's a really big deal. So, 4-star card. I also think if you were playing Luffy into Luffy, like if we had done a red mirror match or two, which I didn't print out 2 copies of the starter decks, but if we had, maybe my opinion on this card would change because I imagine it's far better when you're playing against the Straw Hat deck and you need to have that counter potential. But if we're talking Luffy versus Kaido, I only give it the 4 stars. I think it has the easy potential to become 5. Easily. Gobo Gobo no Jet Pistol. Look at this. He's slamming that passive fist. I love it. Main, KO one of your opponent's characters with 6,000 power or less. Trigger, so if you hit it off life, you activate the main. It only costs 4. That's an immediate 5 stars. Holy crap. This card removes most of the cards that are currently in the game, that are out of the starter decks that we've seen. I can think of 2 cards. I think there are only 2 cards that this does not hit. Even in an aggro deck, it ends up being 4 mana, blow up a blocker, win because of it. It saves your life. It's amazing tempo. God, this is a staple. Amazing, amazing red card. I'm very happy to see it. Diablo Jamba. So it costs 1. Its main effect is choose one of your leader or characters with the Straw Hat Crew trait. During this turn, when that leader or character attacks, your opponent cannot activate blocker. Trigger, KO one of your opponent's cost 3 or lower cards with blocker. So if you hit it off life, you kill a blocker, cost 3 or less. It's 4 stars. Thing holding it back from 5 is that it's clunky. It's not always good. It's good in very specific circumstances. Now, in those circumstances, it wins you the game. I'd also like to point out that it says during this turn when that leader or character attacks, your opponent can't activate blocker. We've already been spoiled for cards. Now, they're not in this video. But cards in other colors can attack multiple times. If we get any of that, literally any of that in red, in Straw Hats, then this card can make it so that you're getting multiple attacks off with no blocker. And that would bump it to 5 stars to me. But we do not have that right now, so it is 4 stars for now. And the Sunny. Activate main, you can tap it, give plus 1,000 power to one of your characters or leaders with the trait Straw Hat Crew. It costs 2. It's 3 stars. If you play this early, it's actually really good. I hated this card when I first read it, and there's only 2 in the deck, and honestly, I think it's good that there's only 2 in the deck because it would clunk it more. But if you're playing this card on your first or second turn, it's a lot of stats. But it only affects Straw Hats, so it doesn't affect your VV, and it doesn't affect your Karoo. And that may not sound like a big deal, but it matters more often than you'd think. Also, it's just not really doing much. Like, Jinbei does what this does and gets an attack off. It's a fine card, but it only deserves 3 stars. And I don't necessarily foresee it being run outside of in the starter deck games based on what little things we've already seen from red. But there it is. That's the end of the Straw Hat deck. So we're going to jump into the Kaido deck now. Hopefully that gave you guys a good feel on the Straw Hats. Kaido, you can see the bottom end of the Luffy deck, like the cheap cards were the ones that were only 2. The top end of the Kaido deck, you can see the Kaido, the King, the Queen. Those are the ones you're only getting 2 copies of. And then also the events. Oh, no, not the events. Excuse me. It's also the Jack, the Who's Who. You get 4 copies of one of your events and 4 copies of your... I actually totally knew you got 4 copies of your stage. Whatever. Here you can see the copies of the cards. And we can jump right in. Hopefully you've gotten a good look. Boom. Kaido. Activate main. Dawn -7. Putting 7 Dawn back into your deck. Trash one of your opponent's life. 5 stars. It doesn't feel like it should be 5 stars. It feels slow, especially for a game where your max mana is 10. You're getting rid of 7 of your max mana. But it is how you win the game. Kaido would have won way, way less of its games without this ability. The fact that it is trashed, so it's not going to your hand and you're not getting triggers off of it, that's what really defines this card. And it's a big deal. Dawn -7, it seems like a lot. It's not. It is, like, don't get me wrong, but It's so manageable. It's so manageable. We were getting this effect off multiple times in a single game. It's the kind of thing where I would have probably only given this card 3 stars if I were blind. Like if I had gone into it and never played it. After playing today for the hours I have, easy 5-star card. Very well designed leader. Ulti. So first of all, counter plus 2,000. Now, whenever you see counter plus 2,000, that's really strong because most cards only counter for 1,000. And you need to consider also, does that mean the card is worth playing? That was one of my problems with the Brook card. Is it worth playing this ulti rather than keeping her in hand for counter 2,000? The answer is immediately yes. She's a 5-star card. When you play her, you Dawn -1, you can play a page 1 that costs 4 less from your hand. Now, there's only one page 1 in the starter deck, and it already makes it a 5-star card. There's also so much potential for page 1 cards out of set 1. I know we're not only going to get the one page 1 that this card can play. That would be ridiculous. She is an amazing tempo play. If you play her on turn 4, you are soaring into the lead. She can be somewhat dull later, but even still, if you ever get a turn where you can take a turn off from being proactive to take a more tempo-y play and just get 2 bodies on board, it's really, really powerful. Look at the art. Oh my god. Kaido, 9-drop 10k. On play, Dawn -5. You can KO one of your opponent's cost 7 or lower characters. Then this character gains rush during this turn. Removal and haste all at once. Dawn -5, really not that bad. If you have 9, you probably have 10. I know it sounds weird, but in this deck, if you have 9, you most likely have 10. If you have 9 active, you're losing half of it. That's fine. You're killing at least one thing, maybe swinging into another, often swinging into another. If not, swinging into face, and then you have a 10k beater. That is really hard to get rid of. That is so, so hard to deal with. You're just swinging 10 every turn. It only comes at 2, and I probably wouldn't run more than 2. I'm happy with it at 2 because it would get clunky. But the card itself is phenomenal. Removal and haste and giant body. It's well earning to be an Emperor to see this card. King. On play, Dawn -1, KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost 4 or lower. It itself costs 6 with a 7k power. 5 stars. Removal. Here we are again. You get rid of your opponent's Jinbei, you get rid of your opponent's Zoro, their Nami, their Usopp. You answer a lot of their blockers, their Chopper. You answer a lot of problem cards with this card for a very not that bad cost. And then it is a 7k body. Again, 7 is huge. It's so large. Your opponent needs to struggle to defend against this attack, much like the Kaido. And it dodges the Straw Hat's removal of 6k or lower. Amazing card. Really, definitely a backbone of the deck. I would run 4 if it came with 4. Hope in the super pre-release, which is kind of what I'm practicing for here, it'll only come with 2. But every time you saw this card, it was almost always played, and it was almost always a threat. 7 is just a really big number. 7k is huge in this game. Queen. All right, let's party. 5-drop 6k blocker. On play, Dawn -1, draw 2, then discard 1 card from your hand. That's a 5-star card. Frankly, 5-drop 6k blocker. Counter plus 1,000. Cool. Don't do that unless you need to live, but don't fucking do that. 6k is really big. A lot of times your opponent is swinging in with 5k. 6k means, so blocking with a 6k means your 6k is not dying. Also, you can block with your 6k even if it would die and then counter defensively, so it's just all around beautiful. And then it's on play, gets rid of dead cards in your hand, nets you new cards. Oh. The top end of these Beast Pirates, those 3 cards you just saw, really help make the deck feel smooth and strong. Sasuke. 3-drop 4k, counter plus 1,000 on play, Dawn -1, you can draw 1 card. 4 stars. This card is really good. It is not game breaking. It does not define the Kaido deck by any means. But it's very strong. Card advantage is big. Dawn -1 is not a big deal. It's just not. At least in the Kaido deck. You'll see as we continue looking through cards, but you're getting 2 mana a turn no matter what. Losing 1 so that you can draw a card and get a 4k body. 4k will swing into a lot of the Straw Hats that have already swung, which is a big deal. Most of the time you're swinging into the Straw Hats. It also only takes 1 pump for this card to be a lethal offender. It's really solid. Very solid card. Doesn't deserve 5 stars, but easily worth the 4. Easily glad to have 4 of it in the deck. 2-drop 4K vanilla, 2-star. It's just like Vivi. It doesn't really do much. Except it's even worse, really. Might even only deserve 1-star, but it's already at 2. It trades into the Straw Hats, which is why I like it. Like, you can trade into little things. But 2-drop vanilla 4K, you're using this card to combo most of the time. Oh, Jack. Hello, Jack. 3-drop 4K. On play, discard 1 card from your hand, reveal 1 Dawn from your deck inactive. So now you're seeing the first ramp card. The first card that lets you add additional Dawn from your Dawn deck to play. And I'm here to tell you that it's only 3 stars. Isn't that crazy? I read this card, I creamed my pants. I thought it was amazing. I was like, there's ramp. It was confirmation that there was ramp in this game. If you don't know, this game is monocolor. So you can only play purple cards in purple decks and red cards in red decks, etc., etc. So they can print ramp and not be really that worried about it because it can only go into the deck. Like, it's a balancing thing. They can print it stronger than they should be able to because they don't need to worry about how it interacts with cards that can't be in the deck. But this ramp is slow and it loses you a card, and the Jack himself is only a 4K. That's below curve. Jinbei's a 5. Zoro's a 5. Robin's a 5. 3-drop 4K. I think if this card was a 3-drop 5K, I'd probably give it a 4-star, but it feels pretty bad to play most of the time. Losing a card in hand is a big deal. There are times you have dead cards in hand. It happens. You can play it on curve. It nets you advantage. Sure. Not commonly. Not commonly. It's a very middle of the pack card. Jin Rummy. 1-drop 3K. Counter 1,000. Boom. This is the Karoo. I gave it 1 star. This is the only card out of either deck that I only gave 1 star. We came to the consensus in our games today. It was not even worth playing this card because it did nothing on your board and was a counter in your hand. At least Karoo can get away with the fact that you're an aggro deck trying to pump biddies to swing. This card doesn't belong. I get it. It's a vanilla. What do you expect? But it's really bad. I strongly suggest, unless you need to play it for some reason, I wouldn't even put it down. I'd save it for counter fodder. They'll win you more games, I think. Who's who? 3-drop 3K on play. Dawn minus question mark. I'm going to have a quick disclaimer about this card. Now, these cards were released today in Japanese. Some very excellent people translated them to English. Dawn minus question mark, and then there's a question mark in the effect. I personally, we assumed today that this meant minus X, do something with X. Kind of like you could choose how much to get rid of, and then it affected something of the cost based on how much you got rid of it. If we find out that's not the case, my opinion of this card could change. But that's how we were operating under the assumption. I feel as though it's a safe assumption. So on play, Dawn minus question mark, KO up to one of your opponent's cost question mark or lower characters. Trigger, you can play this card. That's a 5-star. So first of all, if we were to talk about against the Straw Hat deck specifically, it's blocker and it's Nami. 2 huge cards. Mean only Dawn minus 1. Amazing. Amazing removal. Also, versatile removal. It can get rid of the king. It can get rid of the Kaido. Losing your Dawn is not that big a deal. This card is really strong, especially since it gets played off trigger. That wins you games. Your opponent has lethal on board. This gets triggered. You get rid of their lethal. That's a big deal. Very big deal. Who's Who is a great card. Black Maria, 2-drop 2K blocker with counter potential. I gave it 3 stars. There's a 1-drop 1K blocker. It's way better. This is not going... No one's swinging with 1Ks unless they are really pumped. This is not going to survive more combats. It just costs 1 more. But it is a blocker. It deserves its 3 stars. It maybe deserves 4. I might just be salty. But it's just so blatantly worse than the other blockers we've already seen from this deck and the previous deck. So it is what it is. Here is your page 1. It's a 4-drop 6K vanilla, 5 stars. I would have only given it 4 stars like I gave Frankie, except it gets cheated out by the ulti, which means it's worth 5 stars. The fact that you can pay 4 for a 5K ulti, lose 1, and then play a 6K page 1, huge, huge, huge tempo play. Like, if you do that on curve, if you're going second, right? Your turn 1, you have 2 mana, you use it, whatever. Your turn 2, you have 4 Dawn, you go fucking ulti into page 1. That is a dominant board that is hard to deal with. This card swings into Jinbei, swings into Zoro, swings into ulti through the mirror, it swings into Who's Who, it swings over blockers. Like, it beats out Queen. Big deal that it can be played for free. It wouldn't be worth it if it would honestly. I'd probably only give it 3 stars because if you couldn't play it off the ulti, and the reason I'd give Frankie more is because that deck needs the bodies more. Frankie probably only deserves 3 stars. It's just that that deck doesn't have big bodies the way this deck does. This deck has way bigger bodies than this, and it's still worth it because the ulti plays him amazing. Wow, the art, you gotta love the art on this game. I mean, right? That's beautiful. That's beautiful. 3 drop 5K, counter 1,000, 2 stars. It's Robin. It's Robin again. And this deck doesn't need the bodies. If anything, Robin's better because that deck needs the bodies, kind of. This card is usually just counter fodder. I mean, you can play it, swings into stuff, it's 5K, it's a threat, but one of the first cards to be cut when the starter deck is no longer the starter deck. I don't even remember what this card is called. It's All-Star Disaster, All-Star Catastrophes. All-Star, I think it's All-Star Catastrophe because those are the 3. Calamity, All-Star Calamity. Doesn't matter. Cost of 4. Main, draw 1 card, reveal 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck in active. So you draw a card, you ramp a card, and if you trigger it in your life, it activates the card's main effect. I gave it 2 stars. Listen, I thought this card was the bee's fucking knees. Honestly, I loved this card when I read it. Unless you are playing it on turn 4 for curve, on curve, it's pretty bad. A lot of better things you can be doing. It replaces itself. It ramps you for 4. Not much. If you trigger it, great. If you're playing it on your 2nd or 3rd turn, great. Otherwise, it definitely came into play way less than I would have liked it to. I'm hoping maybe that I was like my limited game pool, and like I could be wrong about this one, but it really did not live up to my expectation of it. This card's called Brachio Bomber. 6-drop. Kill one of your opponent's cost 6 or lower characters and reveal 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck in active. And if you trigger, it does not activate the KO effect, but you do ramp 1. I gave it 3 stars. 6 is a lot for removal. Cost 6 or lower. It hits, right, based on what we've seen so far, it hits the exact same cards, number of cards, from these 2 starter decks as the Gum Gum No Pistol, Jet Pistol, for costing 2 more. Now it does ramp you 1, but in its trigger, it doesn't do the effect. If its trigger was activate main, I think I'd give this card 4, maybe even 5 stars. But it's a little slow. Very middle of the pack, solid card, but nothing special. Bolo Breath. This is a counter. Dawn -1 up to one of your leader or characters for this battle. Power plus 4,000. Honestly, I almost gave this card 4 stars because it didn't have a trigger. But your Dawn is so unimportant, and in the Luffy matchup, this mattered a lot because their shit got big. Luffy's decks, they get big. Plus 4,000 is a lot, and it's very, very helpful. So I think this card might deserve 4 stars, but in my experience playing Kaido versus Luffy, this card was invaluable. So I gave it 5. At least in this context. I feel like the context of what type of games I was playing is important. It is important to remember that all of my experience with these cards is skewed of Luffy versus Kaido, Kaido versus Luffy, and that is it. I'll probably do an update video as we get more stuff for the other 2 starter decks. Once I get those 2 starter decks printed, I'll do a lot more. I mean, I'll have a lot more experience under my belt for what is and won't be good. I also pre-ordered the Japanese ones, so, I mean, I'll get those eventually, but this card, holy mother, Onigashima, 3 cost. Activate main, you may rest this card. If your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates trait, you get a mana. So you got to be Kaido, which is cool, because this card would be too strong to give to purple all over the place. It's an easy 5 stars. This is the best card in the deck. If you go first, you get 1 energy, and you play this on your turn 2, when you're at 3 energy, and even if you go even if you go second, you're playing this. God, for the rest of the game, you're getting an extra mana a turn, an extra Dawn a turn. All those Dawn minus effects, they become, who cares? Because of this card. This card is the reason. Easily the best ramp in the game. The other 2 ramp cards, the Jack and the All-Star Calamities, they would be better if this card didn't exist. It's just that because this card exists, it dwarfs them. This is such a good card. Amazing. Probably the best card out of either starter deck, if I'm being honest. It completes the Kaido deck more than any card in either deck completes either deck that isn't the leaders. So let's talk about it. Luffy versus Kaido. So Luffy, the max number of stars you could get was 85. Luffy got 66 out of 85, which is pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I'm realizing now you guys can't see this, the Luffy. Let's see. Boom. Make me really small. No one cares about me here. We're looking at Luffy and Kaido. Excellent. 66 out of 85. Kaido 65 out of 85. These decks are well made in my opinion. I think Luffy won more, but it was a pretty big toss-up. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm hoping to do more videos like this soon. I really prefer to do videos that are long-winded, more podcast-style videos where I'm casually talking about my opinions of the game. If that's the kind of content you're into, like this video, hit the subscribe button. We'll have more One Piece content coming soon. I already have a few videos in mind, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts as to what you're interested in seeing. Gameplay videos, reactions to new cards, discussions of what we know. I can do a rules video if it's wanted. You guys just let me know what you want to do. I'm going to be getting more stuff cranking out soon. I'm glad I just finished my computer, set up my computer room, so I'm able to make these videos. I wanted to start sooner. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you soon.